Everybody, welcome to the 4040 Vision podcast. I am your host, Khaled Abdallah, and I'm joined today by my fellow host. It's been a while, but it's nice to see you again. Osama Dahud. How are you today, bud?
Good man, good. Been too long. I think I only come around for these like preview pods. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? It's about time we I got to rant about something.
Yes, absolutely. This is, I think, your sweet spot. So today's topic is, does the NBA have a marketing problem? We're going to talk about some of the overarching narratives that have come out, especially since these playoffs and these finals featured two, quote unquote, smaller market teams. And a lot of people were complaining about the NBA's presentation, style of play, coverage, you name it. Instead of talking about the basketball, people were talking about everything else. So we're going to, again, talk about some of these narratives, see if they actually have any weight and if there's some solutions that we can propose to maybe help fix some of the problems that are facing the league as a whole. So the first one is ratings. So for whatever reason, especially on NBA Twitter, people love to talk about ratings as if that is going to impact how much they enjoy or don't enjoy a basketball game. Why? I guess is the question for you is why do people care so much about ratings?
I think the ratings. I'll give you that. So 1998 was like the peak of max NBA ratings, and this was Jordan's last game. Whoop-de-doo. We haven't had a more viewed game than the greatest player of all time's last game. Fair enough. I think that gradually there has been some decline or relative stability, and I think that's why it gets compared to the NFL. And the NFL has these really high ratings, and the lowest rated NFL game is still several times higher than your average NBA game. They just can't. They just don't get that kind of viewership. But I think it's an unfair comparison. One is the
100%.
soccer of this country. It's the biggest sport in this country. The other one's a good sport. And by the way, viewership is not affecting the valuation of it. The TV deals go up, the salary cap goes up, etc.
Yeah, and I think it's a scarcity thing too, right? You're going to have one NFL game a week, not one game, but one game per team a week versus NBA, you're looking at 3 to 5 in a week. So it's just a simple scarcity thing. Even in the playoffs, right? If you miss game one of a playoff series, it's no big deal. You can still watch game 2 to 7 or whatever. But if you miss the wild card game, like that's it. Your team could be out or whatever it is. So it's just people obviously are going to value something that they have less of. So the ratings, of course, will be higher for something that is rarer or less frequent, of course, than an NBA game. The second thing is this: do you feel like these narratives have gotten to the point where all we're talking about is the narratives instead of the narratives on the court? Like, why has this become such a distraction?
Some of it's like social media, but also some of it is people in the game. And I think we have like an assortment of line items here on our agenda, but basically there's commentary from within folks in the league. You have very prominent online voices. You have folks on broadcasts. You have your ESPN coverage, and a lot of manufactured narratives. Some of them have some weight and some merit, and others were just like finding things to complain about.
Let's talk about some of these narratives. So I think the first one, or not first one, but one of them is this constant conversation around who is the face of the league and is it a problem that the last three MVPs or four MVPs or however I forget how many years back you can go that are they're not quote unquote American. I guess Joel Embiid technically is an American, so he broke the streak, but he's still foreign born and all that stuff. Maybe he's not as marketable as some of these other American stars. But do you actually see that as a problem that the maybe the faces of the league are not American?
I think there's some truth to that, but I think that if you make it for like anything, if you make it a thing, then yes, it'll be in the back of your viewers' minds that oh, there's this Serbian guy who doesn't really look like he cares about basketball. It's because he doesn't care enough. He's not American. Americans care more about the game. You can draw these kinds of conclusions by doing that, but if you look at soccer, for example, I know it's a bigger sport. I get that. But they're agnostic to who the biggest star is. Mohamed Salah, great example, Egyptian guy, played for Basel in Sweden or Switzerland, wherever Basel plays. And then he plays in England. He's like the biggest star in England. And it doesn't really matter who plays in England. If you're good, if you are great, and you put on and you are excellent, popularity equals excellence. It doesn't really matter what ethnicity the best player in the league is. So I think that this is a manufactured thing.
I'm trying to put myself in the mind of someone that actually cares about this. Like, are they actually sitting there? They're maybe watching a replay of Jokic doing some, three quarters court pass, or he's, hitting a buzzer beater three like a volleyball slap from the length of the court. And are they like, this was cool, but it would be cooler if he was American, or Giannis, or even like SGA, right? He's Canadian. He doesn't really have an accent. He has kind of like that Canadian Toronto Drake accent going, but it's not like he doesn't speak perfect, flawless English. So I'm trying to understand, like, do you could you put yourself in the shoes of someone that's like, maybe I'm enjoying this a little bit less because the guy's not American?
I think so. Anything American is going to get a little extra, right? There are soccer being, I'm using parallels to soccer because it's similar to basketball in that the individuals are really, really popular and they have their own brands. We can see their faces. It's kind of the distinction made from the NFL and other sports is you can see a basketball player anywhere and be like, oh my God, that's so and so, where you might not know an offensive tackle that is all pro NFL for the Dallas Cowboys, not a good example, but some team like that.
No, I mean Dallas
So
Cowboys is a great example. I think like 80%, 90% of NFL fans, if they saw, I don't know, Tyron Smith, who may be like the best left tackle of this era, I don't think they would recognize him if they just saw his face. Maybe if they saw his giant hulking body, he's 6'8" or whatever. Be like, yeah, that guy probably plays football. But if they just saw like his headshot, they wouldn't be like, oh yeah, that's Tyron Smith. But most NBA fans could probably name like the 12th guy on the Utah Jazz or something just because they know their faces.
true, it's true. I don't know. I can't figure it out. Some of these guys are really passionate. You can't really put it up to passion. Embiid wears his heart on his sleeve. Giannis is such an interesting guy and his mentality. They're all winners too, for the most part. We saw them in the Olympics, and that put a lot of visibility on it. And maybe that's a paradigm shift slowly that kind of slowly crept into this season a little bit, which we might get to later. So, yeah, I think there's some truth to it, but I think that it's amplified by folks trying to figure out what's wrong with ratings when it's not about what's wrong with ratings. It's about how the league is presented and the marketing of the league.
Yeah. And let's talk about the style of play. I think a lot of people, the haters, whatever you want to call it, are complaining about the current style of play in the NBA where it feels like a 3-point shooting contest at times. There's too many teams playing the exact same style. Some are complaining about, it's weird because they'll complain about like a lack of physicality. And then at the same time, they'll complain about either too many fouls being called or the game's getting too muddied up. I think one valid criticism I personally is that it seems to be two types of games that are being played or officiated in different ways, where the regular season is officiated wildly different than the playoffs, and that leads to, injuries, perhaps things like that. But what do you make of the criticism of the style of play and how the game's being officiated?
I wonder who it is we're focusing on sometimes when we say, for example, too many threes. Are we saying that Steph Curry and James Harden are taking too many threes? Is that a problem, or is it like the 12th guy off the bench on the Charlotte Hornets, who's not even on national television, that took too many threes on a given night?
I think it's the latter. And I do think there is some truth to this, where it's like you can watch 5 NBA games in a 2-day stretch, and stylistically, every team is doing the same thing. It's like the analytics revolution of no mid range, no, it's either layups or threes, and you see especially the threes where you're seeing guys pass up, slightly contested layups, maybe even wide open layups for threes, or you're on a 3-on-1 fast break and two of the three guys are running to the corners instead of trailing the ball or something so they can get the dump off. So I think that's more what people are talking about. People want to see James Harden take 15 threes. They want to see Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, whatever, all these assassins from deep take threes. But that 12th guy on the bench or whatever, insert random NBA player here, I don't think they want to see them jacking up threes.
I agree with you. And some of these guys aren't even on TV that are taking too many threes that some fans are focusing on. I'll give you a perfect example. There was a great game during the 2025 season between the Celtics and the Wolves. Great game. Went down to the last shot. I think the Wolves won the game. And they go on to the next game. I think it's a TNT broadcast. And Reggie Miller's partner says, Reg, there was 63s taken between both teams in that game. What do you think of that? And he goes, don't get me started. Why? What do you mean don't get me started? Just shut up. I'll
Reggie
be
Miller
honest,
of
like
all
you,
people, yeah, that's kind of ironic.
yeah. Yeah, like you will never go, and this trickles down into some of the other like old heads. You will not see an NFL analyst go, "There's no, these guys are playing football wrong." They don't do that. And football is different for better or worse, but they don't say the way that they're playing football is wrong.
I think what they'll say usually is, this is not how I played football. This play, for example, if there's, someone running free across the middle and doesn't get laid out by a 230-pound safety, they'll say, they might comment on the reduced physicality of the game. They might talk about roughing the passer calls, which have gotten super, they've gotten really sensitive with that call, where you, even like the body weight thing, if you tackle the quarterback slightly, harder than normal, it becomes a penalty. So maybe they'll talk about that. But I think when it comes to the NBA, they're criticizing the players and how they're playing. And on the NFL side, they're criticizing the way the game's being officiated, which I think are two wildly different things.
Right. And if you think about officiating is really volatile. Some nights they're letting them play, others they're calling touch fouls, which can be really, really aggravating. But if you look at, I don't want to have a numbers conversation, but I remember this year and last year there was a notable difference. You can tell the league told the officials, when you call fouls, call them less, let them play. And you saw playoff basketball creep in like March and April, and the games were good. And the same
Mm-hmm.
goes for this postseason and last postseason. The games were so good. They were letting them play. There wasn't like a foul baiting game. They didn't really let guys get away with that. Like SGA, who's called the foul merchant, and he is, which is fine, was not effective for a lot of these playoffs. He had his games, sure, but he wasn't getting 20 free throws a game. So I think that these are, again, these officiating is always going to be a thing. Football has officiating things. Basketball is going to have officiating things. But you cannot go and talk about your product and say, "Oh, don't tee them up like that. They're taking too many threes. What are you doing?"
Yeah, it takes away from the achievement. I mean, shooting threes is hard. It's not an easy thing to do, and to do it at a high level is a hard thing to do. I think there is maybe some truth to the criticism when a team is shooting, I don't know, like 20% from three, 25% from three.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was in the playoffs where the Celtics shot 63s and they only made 10, something crazy like that, where it was like they broke the record for 3-point attempts and like 3-point misses in the same game. So, I mean, maybe there's some
And it
value.
was
Some,
stupid. It was
yeah,
stupid though. They lost, and they lost that game because it was stupid to take that many threes, right? Uh, I do want to say on this note, if you look at this postseason, the three ball did not dictate who won the title. The OKC Thunder did not
good
shoot
point.
well from
Great point.
three. Jalen Brunson was like, did whatever he want all over the court. This was not that. This was a showing that all that three pointing stuff was the Steph Curry evolution. It was not everyone is the greatest shooter of all time revolution. So sure, there's going to be more threes, but if you look at the way the game was played this season, it wasn't about that. It was about execution, getting back in the mid-range, playing team basketball. I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, and handling the physicality that comes, or the, increased physicality that comes in the playoffs. So, I mean, if you're hitting your threes, sure, but if you're not, then you got to handle all the other stuff. The last two narratives here is, well, I guess one is the load management conversation. And I think that's become an even bigger conversation in these playoffs, where we've seen three all NBA level players blow out their Achilles. I'm sure other players got hurt. Steph Curry pulled his hamstring or tore his hamstring, whatever. There seemed to be, Aaron Gordon too. There seemed to be, uh, maybe it's anecdotal, but it just felt like there were a lot more injuries in these playoffs that came during this period where players were playing every other night at the end of a long season. So it's what do you make of the load management affecting ratings or affecting the perception of the league? And do you think that the league is going to have to take some kind of like long, hard look at this and find a solution?
There wasn't as much load management, and I think that the league's done a good job of not making it a thing. That's one item that's not being discussed as much. It's legacy at this point, kind of pulling grasping for straws to complain about the league. I don't think it's as much of a talking point. It's important. And I think all we can do is hypothesize what's going on with these guys. This is an injury that's supposed to happen to players that with a lot of miles on them that are in their 30s and 40s, and it's happening to 20-year-olds. And the only thing we can, I think, hypothesize is the game is played earlier, the pace of play is faster, the miles are aggregated perhaps from an early league. You have like I forget the name, JCO, you have AAU, stuff like that. Like these are aggregating miles, and that's really all I could think of. Uh, and we'll see. We'll see if this was just like an anomaly or not. But I think load management, not as big of a deal, but important to some degree.
Yeah, I think teams have gotten smarter about it by avoiding like national TV games where no one cares if you're sitting the back to back of a locally televised game against a lesser team, but if you're sitting, if it's Saturday night prime time, maybe at the end of the season, I feel like teams were doing that a little more when seating was more established, but you kind of expect that. I think the Lakers was the last weekend of the season. They sat their top like seven players and nobody cared because they're like, oh, they're locked into the four seed or whatever it was. So I agree with you. I think it's the criticism of load management has turned down. As far as these injuries going, I mean, the theory that makes sense to me is what you said about players playing earlier, playing a lot more. They're specializing in basketball. They're putting a ton of miles on their body at an earlier age, and then also the game is just so much faster, so much more maybe not physical in the sense of like you're getting a forearm, like you're getting a forearm shiver when you're driving, but more of like there's more possessions. You're running up the court more. I'm sure there's data that you can track of the distance covered for most of these guys because of the increased possessions, the threes, the long rebounds, all that stuff. I'm glad that the load management conversation has been toned down because I found it very tiresome because it was like, yeah, these guys are going to do what's best for their bodies. The teams are going to it's kind of a weird dichotomy of like the teams want to protect these players, but there's also been a lot of talk, especially with Halliburton and I think Luca when he got traded, was like teams are also pushing guys to play before they're fully healthy. Like, what do you make of that conversation?
Well, I mean, it's this is a tough one because the Kevin Durant and Tyrese Halliburton injury are eerily similar in that both guys had a calf strain. I think Durant was out a lot longer. He was out almost a month.
Yeah,
And he even looked the same in his return game. He was hitting all of his threes, and we're like, "Here we go, baby! Warriors coming back from 3-1, magic Disney movie." And that's not what happened. He tore his Achilles on a weird play, which is what happened to Halliburton. And it's up to the team, right? Usually, a lot of folks think the player's the one that's like, "I'm out tonight. My knee hurts." It's medical experts that decide these things. Players are like fighters. You ever see like a fighter? Fighters get upset when a fight gets stopped because of like a bad cut. It's not up to them. They would be fine with blood being all over the place, nonstop. But doctors say it's not healthy for you to play with a cut like that. Same thing in this case. This is just a freak accident. It sucks.
yeah. There's a lot of talk of like the team should have protected Halliburton, or they should have thrown in the towel for him. His corner should have made that decision. And I think any serious competitor, anybody that's going to play any sport at that level, you tell them, hey, you have a chance tonight to win a championship, and your name is immortalized. This team is immortalized. I think they could be playing on one leg and go out there and give it their best. So I don't think I think that's a silly conversation. They're like, oh, they should have protected him. He's a franchise player, all that stuff. It's like, yeah, but the whole point of this sport is to win an NBA title, and it's not like it was, game one against the Knicks in the conference semifinals. I mean, this was game seven of the NBA finals. So I think that's a moot point. But yeah, it's a freak accident in both cases, and just complete tragedy. And just like KD, he came out firing, and it looked like he was gearing up for like an all-time performance, which obviously, unfortunately, did not happen. So the other thing people are complaining about is just the coverage and the way that the NBA treated the finals. and ESPN treated the finals. I don't know really I don't know who's to blame more, but after game one, there was this groundswell of criticism of people saying, "Where are the graphics on the court? Why isn't the Larry O'Brien Trophy on the court? Why aren't you showing the player intros, for example?" And they're saying they had more ceremony around the in-season tournament than the NBA Finals. What do you make of that criticism?
I think it's fair criticism. Like, make the game look different. You know, when you're watching the Super Bowl, there's a big ass trophy on the field that's painted on there, right? It says Super Bowl 55 on both sides. Make it, yeah, it's a spectacle. Make it a spectacle. Make it feel different. And they did with the in-season tournament, as some of those courts were eyesores and epilepsy seizure threshold risky. uh, with the finals, yeah, make it a thing. And I think I don't recall what they did do it again, and I don't remember what the outcome was. I thought it was fine. They did do a great job with the intros. I'm like, okay, that's how you start a game. That's great presentation. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm glad that they were open to the feedback. It's a little silly that they had to go to Twitter and online and hear it and go, oh, we should do that. It's a good idea, guys. Thank you.
I mean, it probably cut into like their advertising time because they probably could have sold, few, you know, some 30-second
God
slots.
forbid, God forbid,
Yeah.
Whopper, Whopper.
The funniest thing to me was the pity Larry O'Brien trophies that they projected onto the court. And their whole thing was like, their excuse was player safety because I think a few years ago they had the big decal and of the Larry O'Brien and people were saying it was slippery. I remember like the NCAA they had the giant blue NCAA logo on the court in the Final Four. People said, "Oh, it was slippery." I'm like, okay, I'm sure there's a way around it. The other excuse was, "Oh, we don't know who's going to be in the finals, so we can't make a custom court." I'm like, you need to know who the two teams are to put a giant trophy in the court. Like it didn't make sense to me. And you have a week, between the conference finals and the finals, so there's plenty of time to ship a court wherever you need it to be. So I don't buy any of that shit. But it was hilarious that it took Twitter criticism for some, ESPN or NBA exec to be like, yeah, we should show the intros because I feel like they used to. Am I tripping that they used to show the intros before, right?
This is not just a NBA and NBC thing. ESPN or ABC at one point did have like cool intros, and I think to your point, the advertising dollars because we need to see the biggest, the large. We need to see the Wingstop commercial. We need to see
Yeah.
all that. We don't need to see, the spectacle. Who cares about that? Just watch the game.
Yeah, and the
Silly.
other criticism was the commentary crew. I don't think we need to spend too much time on that. I'm not a huge Richard Jefferson fan. I'm not a huge Doris Burke fan. I think that was just like we didn't have Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, so it felt like a lesser game. I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that, or is it just like I feel like it's kind of a pointless conversation?
We just watch the games. I think that like Mike Breen is a great announcer. I think the other two are up and down. Is there any instance where you tuned into an event because, oh man, I can't wait to hear this person's voice on it? Like, was that the reason why you did?
Absolutely not. I barely even registers like what they say. I mean, I'll listen on the Mike Breen call because even people were saying, "Oh, he's washed because he wasn't showing the right level of emotion or whatever. He wasn't doing the trademark bang call that he did. He didn't do it. He said he didn't do it for the Halliburton game winner in game one because it wasn't a three. So like, it just didn't make sense to me.
He,
Like
he
the
he
guy,
made it up on the first basket of the following game or something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because he probably heard the criticism or read the criticism on Twitter, which I think the whole thing was silly. But the other thing is the coverage. I mean, ESPN in general, people have been complaining about ESPN's halftime show from day one. I don't think it's unique to the finals. And that's another thing where it's like me, and maybe it's just a me thing where I'm like, I don't really care. I use halftime as a chance to, go use the bathroom, grab a snack or something. Like, I'm not watching halftime expecting some sort of like, brilliant analysis from these people. Am I alone in that?
I don't think so. Here's what I'll say. If you're gonna do it, at least don't make it look so soulless,
Mm,
where everyone's got 30 seconds and like and the same answer all around. You just gotta step up, you just gotta do more. And I really didn't need to hear that. I'd rather you not have a halftime show at all if you're just gonna say, You got 10 seconds, Chauncey Billups, go. Yeah, the ball didn't go in the hole. Like, what are we doing here?
The funniest thing I saw was I was actually watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, and people were saying that the Stanley Cup halftime or intermission had Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player that will ever live, and the ESPN one had Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith. So
Yeah.
maybe that's part of it. I mean, I guess the NBA and NBC is going to have Michael Jordan. I don't know if he's going to do the finals next year, but maybe that's part of it. Is like Perkins is like a hot take artist. Stephen A is a hot take artist. I actually don't even know who the host is anymore. It was Maria Taylor once upon a time. Is it still Maria Taylor?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
also
see?
don't watch it, but because I watched it and they're all like around the horn in 10 seconds, and then like, that's it. That was all you had. It's not worth watching right now. So yeah, I don't know. You reminded me that Perkins is even showing his sodium infused face on there and giving hot takes.
Yeah, so maybe that's part of it is like there's no gravitas to the people that are doing it, and it's so fast. It's like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes plus commercials. So I mean, as opposed to hockey, which has like I think a 20-minute intermission, so there's time to get into the analysis versus, five people on a panel with 30 seconds to spew some random bullshit about, getting the ball in the
Yeah.
hole, narratives and stuff like that. Uh, I guess another thing is maybe sort of a larger conversation, not specific about coverage or style of play, but like maybe a lack of accessibility in some cases for these games where, most of the or a lot of the good games are on League Pass, which is not obviously readily available. It's an expensive product. It's not a great product to use, and I think it's moving behind some other paywalls where next year we're going to have Amazon and at least it's going to be on NBC. But do you feel like the league is doing itself a disservice by not making League Pass more accessible and putting more games behind a paywall?
Yeah, here's my issue with League Pass is if you want to watch your local games, you don't want to subscribe to a specific broadcasting service. You don't want Comcast or whatever, and you get League Pass. You can't watch your team. You can watch everybody else's team, but because of these local rights models, you're not allowed to. It's infuriating because I don't have a TV service. I want to watch everybody, and I can't. I can watch everyone except my team. So. Uh, that part's aggravating. It's crazy expensive, but if you just want to watch your team, you're taking that away. I know it's the same in football, but this is if you want folks to watch your sport, my thing is always make it more as accessible as you can. The only channels you can watch it on throughout the year, by the way, because ABC Saturday nights kicks in, I don't know, after football season's
Yeah,
over,
after college football season's over, yeah.
it is you spend like the first 4 months, 5 months watching it on TNT, ESPN, and NBA TV. You have to have a service to watch all of these.
Mm.
So, like on football Sundays, I know it's once a week, but football Sundays, if you open, you just need an antenna. If you plug in your $20 antenna that plugs into your HDMI slot on your TV, you'll get 4 games every Sunday. You'll get the morning ones and the afternoon games every week.
You'll
So I
get, I
think
mean, Sunday Night Football too is on NBC, so you have that game too.
right, right, and you get Sunday Night Football. So uh, you just can't watch it. You can't watch it for like several months. I know, and football's on and taking all the coverage. It's almost like by design and rights, they're conceding coverage to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe from that perspective, it makes sense. Like this is a lost battle before it even starts against NFL and college football. So we might as well just, put it behind a paywall. Maybe somebody is willing to pay. Maybe people like us are willing to pay for League Pass and take that on the chin and pay what $200-300, whatever it is. But it is really infuriating. I mean, I'm in Sacramento, so technically not in the Warriors market, so I get those games on League Pass. But when I'm in the East Bay, visiting family or whatever, I don't have access to the Warriors games because of League Pass, and it's really frustrating. And maybe I mean, there's some teams. I think the Suns, for example, put their games on like a local network, so there's maybe ways around it. Maybe there's a streaming option. But it does force a lot of people to just pirate it and go on, NBA streams or whatever it is to get around it. So, in terms of the solutions to this and some of the things that they've tried that are perhaps a little more gimmicky. I mean, I would throw the in-season tournament in there as sort of a gimmick, the play-in tournament as another gimmick. the TikTok influencers, the TikTok dancers at All Star Weekend. Uh, they've done Rivalry Week. I think the WNBA does Rivalry Week as well. Like, what do you make of these little more gimmicky things that they're doing to try to get more eyes on the product?
I think it's worth trying. Uh, I don't think they've been executed well. Save for the play-in, I think the play-in has worked because it's got that knockout feel, and the games have some of them aren't good, but they're moderately
Most of them are not good,
good.
but it's
Yeah,
okay.
but they have stakes. We'll at least give it a shot, you know. Especially like if you're local and you start to make these games matter more, it becomes like a wild card, so to speak, where you get your chance to make it into the first round of the playoffs. The TikTok influencers thing was really bad. It did not work. Clearly, kids did not want to watch basketball because some kids were dancing with Adam Silver. I don't think that changed anything at all. Rivalry week is an interesting theory. I think it takes time though to build these, and not all of them really felt like rivalries. So I think that there is something there. They just need to keep working on it. There's other stuff they could do. These haven't been effective enough, but they're at least in the last 5 or 6 years an attempt to try and make the game seem more appealing to a broader audience that maybe isn't tuning in organically, or to add some level of excitement to a very long NBA season to say here are points in time where you can pay attention. In marketing, to be honest, 'cause I work in marketing. If you try to trickle in something to get someone's attention, attention spans are so short now
Hmm.
that if you're just saying, "Hey, it's week, I don't know, it's game 31. You need to watch Rivalry Week." Why do we need to watch Rivalry Week? Is there anything different about it? Are these teams really rivals? Are you telling me a story, or are you just telling me to watch Rivalry Week? I didn't see any storytelling that goes, "Here's why you should
Mm.
watch Rivalry Week." I feel like I'm saying that weird, but here's why you should watch that. These teams are all rivals. And there wasn't any storytelling behind it. And I think storytelling does matter when you have individuals. You look at Formula One and the Starting Five series that's on Netflix. Like you put storylines next to people, it does wonders for it. And the NBA has so much more they could do.
And they have so much history, and I feel like they don't do maybe save for like the Celtics Lakers rivalry. But I feel like even in the playoffs, there's so much opportunity to tell the story of, why do the Pacers and the Knicks hate each other? Why is this such a, because it's not a rivalry that you think of, when you're asked like, hey, name the, we keep saying rivalry. It does sound a little weird now. You mentioned it. But if you think about the biggest rivalries in the NBA, like over the course of NBA history, right? I don't think that's one that you would name, right? Even like Heat Knicks, maybe going back to the 90s, everybody seems to have a rivalry with the Knicks. But, some of the newer ones like, Warriors Rockets. Why do the Warriors and Rockets hate each other? Why do Rockets fans hate the Warriors so much? And I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity, especially in like the pregame coverage. Like, why didn't they lean into some of that storytelling of, hey, let's take you back, 20, 30 years to the Pat Riley Knicks or the Pat Riley Heat or whatever it is.
100% agree. I think that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there to take. The game is giving it to you. And we're getting
Yes.
clips of what happened the game before. We just saw that game. That's cool. You could do that, but tell a story. Make it and make us want to hear it. Find a way to drop the trailer, right? Drop a trailer online and go, here's Warriors Rockets is starting. Here's the history going back to 2015. Tell that. It was the MVP race between Steph and Harden, and they played in the finals like almost every year until 2019. Tell that story. Drop a promo and tell people to watch Reggie Miller versus the Knicks. Ah!
Yeah, it seems so obvious. And the NFL, I mean, again, we keep talking about the NFL, but they're kind of the gold standard where, sure, maybe in the regular season, you don't have as much time to build up to like a big Saturday night game because they just played on Thursday or Friday. But in the playoffs, you have at least a week and a half. You have at least 4 games to build up some of this history and context behind it. And it seems like such a layup, to use the basketball term, but it just they just keep missing it. And maybe it's like I wonder if it's the league trying to like force you to look forward instead of looking back for whatever reason. I mean, they have 70 plus years of history that they could lean on. But it feels like instead, like maybe in general, this is kind of a coverage problem where they're constantly talking about what's next. Where is Giannis going to end up in a year? Where is, even during the finals, like they're leading off, NBA Live or whatever the show is, and they're leading off coverage with Kevin Durant trade rumors, instead of, let's break down what just happened. Let's see, how is SGA going to overcome, XYZ? How is Halliburton going to overcome, work around his calf strain? I feel like most of the talk is around, potential trades, or, trades that are being rumored. Is that I mean, why are they focusing so hard on, the future and these rumors versus what's happening right now?
There seems to be some sort of alignment in sports with individuals that the transaction is very fascinating. It is, but it's temporary and it's only in short circuits, and it only happens in these very small windows. Soccer is a great example of this because, to be honest with you, there is a funny parallel where in soccer they do this a lot, where they talk about the transaction, is Neymar leaving, is Gareth Bale leaving, etc. The transfer window's coming up in January. If they're going to leave in January, they're going to leave in the summer, which is a little unique to soccer, where they have these two massive windows where anything goes. Anyone can be bought out of their contract and sent to a new team. It is similar in this sense, and this is a coverage decision, but I don't think Americans are buying it. I don't think Americans want to hear this stuff for prolonged periods of time. They're not really like positioning interesting personalities. We're getting hot takes, and this transaction thing is interesting, but it's a problem when it's more interesting than the game. I know there's a shock value to it when something big happens. It should not be happening the morning of Game 7. For those not maybe on the audio side, I almost ripped my own face off. Yeah, you that Game 7, by the way, just to go back to ratings, did almost 20 million as the highest rated NBA Finals because it took a Game 7 to do it, or a little more removed from the politics of the bubble and things like that. I do not for a second buy that the idea of, if they drop this the morning of, maybe more people will see this and go, I'm going to watch basketball tonight. That these things are not connected. And I get that the draft is, as of this recording today, it's Wednesday. This could have waited another day, or at least another or 2 days. There's got to be a gag order on either don't make the draft that close,
Mm, yeah,
or do not allow for transactions to be made during the freaking postseason.
that's an interesting point. I mean, why? I mean, I get it, but I get both points where it's like you shouldn't further penalize teams that are not in the postseason anymore for making deals. I mean, even the Pacers made a trade during the finals. They traded a future pick. It was like some kind of just reshuffling, transaction that they did. Do you really
Well, they
think
had
that
to.
for, well, yeah, they were trading because that's right, because the draft is in like 3 days. So, I mean, does it really hurt affect the NBA calendar that much if they push it, a week or two? Because now you're eating into summer league, you're eating into training camp, maybe. Like, is it fair to further punish teams that don't make the playoffs? Like, hey, you can't make a transaction during this, especially because the playoffs are long. It's like 2 months.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I don't got the answer, Sway. But they could have. This could be done a bit better. It can. This is like you will not see during any other sport on the eve of the World Cup final, for example, which is in the transfer window. Oh my God! Someone bought Mohamed Salah out of his contract. What? Like it just won't happen. This is not. This is not the way sports should be covered.
Yeah, maybe there's some kind of happy medium that they can figure out, but I do think it's tough to basically like shut things down for. I mean, I guess they do it at the end of the season, but that would be almost like a 4 month stretch because what's the trade deadline's in February, so you're looking at almost 5 months where you can't make a trade or a transaction. So I do think that's tough. I think it would condense the offseason even further, but I'm sure there's a way around it where you can make the transaction, not make it official. But the way things work these days with all these insiders, like it's gonna leak. So I think maybe you're fighting a losing battle in that.
Pro- Probably, yeah. Everyone's got to be first. That's all that matters. Who was first?
Exactly right. Well, it's just Shams now, right? I can't even name any other like insiders. It used to be him and Woj, and now it's just him. So let's talk solutions. So the first one that people throw around to make the regular season matter more, to make everything, to fix the player injuries, all that stuff is to shorten the season. Do you think there's like a sweet spot number from 82 down to something else, or is this another one where it's a losing battle because there's no way that they're going to cut it down?
There's got to be a way to do it. I've heard different theories. I've heard cut it down to 62 or cut it down to 67 or cut it down to something else and make the playoffs earlier, start the season in like December. I've heard like different combinations of this. I think they all have a case. I think it's not a matter of like if they can do it. I think it's some of the constraints uh, that are finance related, which is the TV deals, right? Oh, less games. Okay. Well, we keep giving you TV money, and the TV money is good every year. Does this mean that the value of the TV deal is less? The salary cap and the collective bargaining agreement are all based around probably to some degree how long the season is. So there will need to be some a rehaul of how like the game is paid out, how it's constructed, how it's advertised, and when. That stuff I think is more of a headache than how many games are going to be played, and I think that might be the reason why it's taken so long to for the conversation to be brought up to Adam Silver. I've never heard Adam Silver address the question that we should shorten the season. I don't know. I think yeah, I've said too much, but I think that yeah, there's something to be said there.
I mean, maybe starting the season a little earlier instead of, I think usually around Halloween, maybe start it a few weeks earlier so there's fewer back-to-backs. Like I know that'll cut into the off season, but maybe you start the season a little bit earlier, but you take the first round back down to best of 5 versus best of 7 because that, stretch that probably saves you a week or two sometimes of these series that go to 7 in the first round. So maybe you figure that part around. But yeah, there's just so much money at stake and so many of these owners. I mean, aside from TV deals, just the amount of money they make from gate receipts and all the other stuff. So I don't see them doing that anytime soon, but maybe just extending the duration of the season so they can fit more game not fit more games in, but have fewer back to backs and less rest or more rest, I should say, for the players. So the other one that you mentioned as a potential solution is just, I mean, it sounds like state sponsored propaganda or state controlled media, but it's like, hey, let's stop shitting all over the league where you have an announcer. I mean, the way they talk about the threes, or you have some of the guys will say, straight up, like, I don't care about, Hornets Magic on a Tuesday or whatever. I mean, is that something that they can actually control? Is to maybe enforce like a let's try and stay positive approach to coverage?
They're the NBA. They should be able to try and be as annoying as possible about whatever they want. I think David Stern, there's this funny David Stern story where there was a meeting with a number of executives. I don't recall what the details were, but Scott Skiles, former point guard and I believe coach of played for the Magic, and I think he coached the Magic too, had a strong disagreement with something that David Stern was talking about. And he said, it's an interesting point you make. There's two factors here. There's our uh, $10 billion league with X number of revenue, and there's Scott Skiles.
I saw where you go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they can tell anyone they want to just talk about basketball. Don't talk about there's too many threes. Stop telling our players they don't want it enough. Just talk about basketball.
Yeah, I think at the very least they can do it with their broadcast partners. So if you're ESPN or TNT or whatever it is, you can be like, I mean, I know Charles Barkley probably doesn't take orders from anyone, but some of these other people, it's just kind of his brand. He's like this grumpy old man, which is fine. But some of these other guys, like you can just tell them, like, hey, let's just try to gear the conversation towards what's happening on the court. Let's try to be more positive about this. I mean, if you can't control what Paul Pierce says on First Things First or whatever FS1 show he's on, because they don't broadcast the NBA, so they're not like beholden to that. Maybe they can, maybe the rights to replays or something. I don't know, whatever kind of carrot or stick that they can use to try to enforce this. But I think that would help because it's not helping anybody when you have people that cover the game or at least pretend to cover the game in some cases just having like this complete negative approach where they're devaluing games, they're they're hating on the players, that sort of thing. Um, Anything else when it comes to like solutions that you can think of? I mean, I know we're going into a new era with NBC and Amazon. Do you think that they're going to take a different approach to coverage?
I'm really excited about this. I think that the league going off on such a high note with the game 7 and it being a really good postseason, the momentum is great because NBC is a very accessible channel. They have Peacock, which is in millions of households. That's included in a lot of like cell phone service and stuff like that. That's great. Amazon broadcasts the NFL. That's in like 300 million homes or something like that.
Yeah, something crazy.
So yeah, so I know that NBC as a brand, NBA and NBC, there's like nostalgia is very powerful. Everyone loves to talk about what used to be. I think that they have an opportunity. Now we got games on whenever we want on NBC. We got games whenever we want on Peacock. We got that little song that you all love, uh,
Round ball rock, man.
Round Ball
It's
Rock.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot there where the games are going to be easier to find on cable TV and on Amazon, which a lot of people have.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to sum it up from my perspective, it's like the game is changed. The game is it looks like a completely different sport from 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I think if you want to focus on the worst possible games, like if you're watching a terrible game where no one is hitting from three, or you're watching a 30, 40 point blowout, you can talk about that, till you're blue in the face. And the same, but you can do that for any league, right? Even the big bad NFL, they have their fair share of blowouts, even on primetime TV, and no one seems to care. But for whatever reason, the NBA, the coverage is always, it starts from a negative place. Instead of focusing on, hey, we have this whole new crop of unbelievable new stars that are all vying to be the face of the league. Maybe we don't have a perfect successor yet to like the LeBron Steph era. Uh, and instead of focusing on that and the fact that these guys are more skilled than ever. I mean, occasionally you'll have an announcer, they'll show someone like, I don't know, Anthony Simons or some other player that's like good but not great, and they're just hitting this impossible shot, and they'll say like they'll use him as this beacon of like everyday rotation guys are hitting shots and making plays and showing off this level of athleticism that we've never seen before in the league. And when you come from that perspective, it I think that's what's going to bring people in. It's not like, hey, the NBA is not what it used to be. Oh, they're taking too many threes. It's like, look at these guys, look at these absolute athletic freaks of nature doing things you've never seen before, where they're hitting logo threes and doing all kinds of crazy stuff in transition. It's like, I think that positivity is the main solution. Like, let's just focus on all the amazing cool shit that's happening, and all that negativity. If you want negativity, go to FS1 and you could hear Paul Pierce complain about, legacies or whatever it is. You don't need to come to our coverage. And I mean, sometimes I think it's that simple. Am I crazy for thinking it's as simple as just like coming with a optimistic look at things?
It's how I feel too. And I think the NBA is not doing that. They might think they are, but I don't think there's enough focus on this game is incredible. Like what was the slogan in the 90s? I love this game, I think,
Hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like,
think so.
what's the slogan now? Is there a slogan now?
I mean, I don't think so. For TNT, it was like we know drama. Uh, the fact that we can't think of one is tough. Yeah, I don't know.
These are it's entertaining. Like the athletes and the brand and the sport all connect in some way, and you have to make them compelling at the end of the day with the style of play. Style of play is great. Everyone's great. They're so much better than they ever were. There's more talent than there ever was in the league. This is all about positioning yourself and your players as a premium sport. With the wrap up of the Olympics and everyone seeing how the USA played and that high on how they won gold, I think that blended pretty well into this season. I think there's a new era where positioning can increase so much through their new broadcast partners. It's less reliant on ESPN and Turner, and you got new players. Like, you ever watch Thursday Night Football? Amazon's doing cool stuff with players, and they got like different views and all that. Like, that's going to be really exciting to see what these broadcast partners do, in addition to the NBA going above and beyond to make this like just making this. We're focusing on beautiful basketball, entertaining basketball, not about, to your point, not leading with three. We're just teeing it up, and I think the point is to be delusional to some degree, right? Like football
It's the
happiness is
mythology. Buy
yes,
into the
football
mythology
happiness
of the game.
is yes, yes. The mythology is what it's all about. Football happiness is delusional. Uh, Oilers, Texans, and Jags on a Thursday night. Not always a great game, right? But there's still people watching it because it's on. So make people feel like when basketball's on, whether it's 80 games or not, that they should tune in.
Yeah, there you go. I think I'm gonna take this, send it to Secaucus for is it official resume
We did it.
application?
We did
Yeah,
it. We did it. Basketball's back. All thanks
yeah.
to
There you
us.
go.
We solved basketball.
We
And
fixed it.
we are pleading is what we're doing. Is like I don't care about the ratings. I love the when the game is presented that way. Like those intros during this finals were amazing. I still go back and watch Bob Costas say, Wayne, so and Bill Russell won this and that, and he'll like start referencing other athletes. But Michael Jordan has still not won an NBA championship. Could this be the night he
Mm.
does so? Like, bring that shit back, man. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, legacy talk. Legacy talk is infuriating when it comes from a negative place because that's usually where it starts, right? It's what is losing this finals going to do for LeBron's legacy or SGA's legacy or whatever. Why not talk about how awesome it is that these two teams have a chance to win their first ever NBA championship, and these players that are these young players in their mid 20s have a chance to become basketball immortals by winning, especially on a game 7. So I think maybe that's just positivity. Just be positive, be optimistic, be a
Yeah.
little delusional. Sell
Yeah.
us on. I mean, I don't think you need to sell us, but maybe sell the casuals and other folks that are like, sell us on the mythology of the game, the history of the game. And I mean, in one breath, they'll say, oh, these are the best athletes that have ever played the game. These are the most skilled athletes that have ever played the game. And then the next breath, they'll say, oh, but, it's not the 90s. Oh, they couldn't play in another era. So that silliness, that double talk is foolish. So again, I will be sending this to NBA HQ in Secaucus, New Jersey, as our official applications to join the NBA marketing department. Osama, man, I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys for listening. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, follow button wherever you're listening or watching the 4040 Vision podcast. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, man.